Good morning, good day. Thank you for tuning in. This is Mike Berger again with NC Planning, bringing you another daily counsel update. Today, again, we're going to be updating on the status of the PPP loan program as it's been amended under the CARES Act. You may have seen some videos recently, and again, if you're following us on YouTube, please be sure to give us a like and a subscribe as it helps out the channel. But recently, we've been reporting about some proposed amendments that have worked their way through Congress to the CARES Act. Again, the CARES Act being that piece of legislation that serves as a vehicle to go ahead and provide a number of business stimulus and relief options, including the Paycheck Protection Program loans, PPP loans, that have been issued to small businesses since late March or April, and have been re-upped in the amount of money that's been put into this thing to help small businesses recover. There were a number of constraints or parameters around the program that were causing some businesses challenges in how they use their proceeds, and concern about how the forgiveness of those loan proceeds would operate. And so Congress went back in and they provided a piece of legislation last week, a bill that would propose to go ahead and amend the CARES Act and provide some flexibility for the use of loan proceeds, timing, and items on repayment. And so I want to go ahead and give some update there. As of Friday, June 5th, the president did sign into law the HR 7010, which effectively amends the CARES Act to make the PPP loan program and its forgiveness elements more flexible for business owners. Some highlights include that the time period for covered loan proceeds to be used, which was originally 8 weeks from the date of origination, has now been expanded to 24 weeks, or to 12/31/2020, whichever is earlier. And so that means if later in time there are proceeds awarded and your 24 weeks was to run into 12/31, I believe 12/31 would be the operating date there. Also, they've extended the sunset provision on the program. Originally, the PPP loan program was set to end on June 30, 2020. And now the legislation, the amendment to the CARES Act, has expanded that to the end of the year, 12/31/2020. So this program is continuing. There is still money available, so says the U.S. Treasury, and you can see that on their website. So in the event that there's going to be a borrower that goes ahead and applies now or applies in the next couple of weeks, or July, August, I mean, this application program appears to be open and rolling through the end of the year. Another item that is addressed under the amendment to the CARES Act is that the threshold for the percentage of proceeds that must be used for payroll expenses has been lowered. So originally, if you'll recall, the legislation said that in order to be eligible for loan forgiveness, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is essentially what it says, you have to hit a threshold of using 75% of those proceeds, the loan proceeds, for payroll expenses, and it defines what payroll expenses, payroll costs are in the statute, but generally for typical payroll expenses. That threshold has now been lowered, thanks to the amendment, from 75% to 60%. So in effect, what we have is you can spend less money on payroll, and then you can spend more money on other things like rent and utilities for your business. So before it was a 75-25 sharing, now it is a 60-40 sharing. Again, that's the threshold you have to meet in order to become eligible for loan forgiveness. Additionally, the legislation provides some relaxation of the employee availability standard or headcount calculation that business owners are going to have to go through on forgiveness. They give you some flexibility. They understand that not every business is going to be able to rehire everyone 100%. There are going to be issues. And if there is basically some good reasoning, some good faith, there's some relaxed standards that have been implemented under this amendment to the CARES Act. And another point, or the final point I kind of want to hit on, well, this is really 2 points, but it involves payroll and employment and extension of loan terms. So let's deal with that one first. The extension of loan terms, or change in loan terms, Originally, there was a 6-month deferment period. If you've taken money that is PPP money, 6-month period, it's been expanded to 10 months for deferment of those loan proceeds or the repayment of those loan proceeds. And then the maturity date or the term of repayment for the loan itself, which was originally 2 years, is now expanded to 5 years. And some of this requires working with your lender, obtaining mutual agreement, whatnot. But generally, what we expect to see are some modifications there in terms. Again, 6 months of deferment of payments moving to 10 months. That's going to give everybody more time to apply for forgiveness. So that is critical. And then for those folks that don't get fully forgiven, there may be some amount that you have to repay. The SBA is going to allow repayment of that now over 5 years as opposed to 2, which was in the original legislation. And finally, the amendment to the statute allows now a delay in employer payroll taxes to be utilized. The CARES Act under Section 2302 had previously provided certain relief in certain instances for business owners to defer the payment of payroll taxes, but there was some clash there with that and the CARES Act. And so now what the legislation or the amendment to legislation does is it allows for employers to take advantage of that payroll tax deferment to a later date. And so with that, there are a number of, I would say, positives that we can take from this. I believe these will be helpful for business owners by and large. It will add some flexibility to how it gets repaid. From a logistics standpoint, I did want to point out that 8-week period where the date of origination of loan proceeds previously ran to 8 weeks, and now that's expanded to 24 weeks. That is upon election of the borrower. The way that the legislation reads is that is basically up to you, the borrower, the business owner. Work with your lender to determine what time period is right for you. Our legal team at NC Planning, we're always standing by. We're helping borrowers go through this calculation now to try to figure out, for instance, it may be more advantageous to you to take the 8-week period as opposed to the 24-week period, because maybe you've had a headcount change or something like that that could impact you adversely if you were to stretch out to that 24-month period. And maybe you've already used the loan proceeds during that 8-week period. And I'm sorry if I've said 24 months. What I mean is 8 weeks and 24 weeks. Maybe you've used the proceeds in that 8-week period. And so it's more advantageous for you to take that as opposed to the 24-week period. And if that's the case, it is available at your election to work with your team in the forgiveness application process, to work with your lender. Also, logistically, what we kind of expect to see from here is probably an updated application from the SBA to give some guidance on what it looks like to apply for forgiveness. Now with that added 24-week period in lieu of the 8-week, with the 60-40 split on payroll rent versus the 75-25 split, the extended deferment of repayment, the extended maturity date, all those things are going to have to be reworked in the SBA sort of standardized application for forgiveness. And then that application and guidance from the SBA is probably going to have to work its way through, excuse me, with the individual lenders to kind of get a full grasp on what forgiveness process looks like. So I would advise, get with your team, your legal team, your financial team, with your lender, keep tabs on how it comes down the pike, and be ready to make those calculations under the new rules in line with the amended legislation, and get yourself the maximum opportunity for forgiveness under the PPP loan program. That's all for right now. We'll be monitoring this. We'll be updating once we see some guidance from the SBA and additional applications. In the meantime, feel free to leave us a comment with a question. We'll try to get back to it, respond. And until then, stay safe, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you.